2 days after Antwon Rose Jr. was buried last week, something truly extraordinary happened. It was sadly not extraordinary that he was shot in the back by a police officer while he was unarmed and running away, posing no threat to anyone. Unarmed black men have been getting shot in the back by American police officers for as long as the police have had guns. The extraordinary thing is that the police officer who killed Antwon Rose Jr. in East Pittsburgh was actually charged with criminal homicide last week. Criminal prosecution is the rarest possible outcome for police officers who kill unarmed black men who pose no threat to anyone. I have been studying this tragic subject for decades. The very first article I ever published was an op-ed piece in the New York Times in 1979 about police use of deadly force. And that was the first time that the New York Times ever printed anything indicating that there was a problem with police use of deadly force. The first killing of an unarmed black man by police that I read about and then investigated myself was the 1975 killing of James Bowden by 2 Boston police officers. James Bowden was a 25-year-old husband and father of a 4-year-old daughter and a 6-month-old son. He had no criminal record. James Bowden had a steady job as a maintenance worker at Boston City Hospital. 2 Boston police officers stopped his car because, like the car Antwon Rose was riding in, James Bowden's car resembled the description of a car used in a crime earlier that day. Like Antwon Rose, James Bowden was shot in the back. James Bowden's widow came to my father for help. My father was a lawyer, and he immediately agreed to take her case. And that surprised a lot of people, especially the Boston police, because my father was a former Boston police officer himself. My father filed a civil rights wrongful death lawsuit against the Boston police in federal court. His fight with his old police department was long and intense and bitter and deeply personal. I did my own investigation of the case and spoke to even more Boston police officers than my father was able to cross-examine in court, and I reported it all in my first book, Deadly Force, which was first published in 1983 and has now been republished in paperback with new material that links the killing of James Bowden to the more recent killings of Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, Laquan McDonald, and now Antwon Rose. Facing an all-white jury in federal court in Boston in 1980, my father won the case, proving that James Bowden's civil rights were violated and that he was wrongfully killed by the Boston police. The city of Boston appealed the case and went all the way to the United States Supreme Court before going to trial for a second time. And with another all-white jury, my father won that case again. And I don't think anyone else could have done that in those days when no one was paying attention to police use of deadly force, no one outside the black communities where people knew police use of force was a deadly serious problem. It took everything that my father knew about being a cop, as an ex-cop himself and a lawyer, to fight his old police department and win. And the police threw everything in our way that they could because our whole family was involved in this fight. And today, it's even more remarkable to think that my father was able to win that case, win justice for James Bowden's family without any video of what happened. We have a video of what happened to Antwon Rose in East Pittsburgh, and so we know that Antwon Rose was shot in the back while he was unarmed, running away from the police officer, and that video is the reason the officer who killed Antwon Rose is facing criminal charges tonight. Here is that very disturbing video of what happened to Antwon Rose when he was unarmed and threatening no one.
Why are they shooting at him? No, I'm recording this. Why are they shooting? All they did was run and they're shooting at them.
Video changes everything. 35 years ago, when I began collecting police reports in cases like this, when unarmed men, usually black, were shot in the back while running away from police officers, the police reports repeatedly included this phrase, usually word for word: "He turned in a threatening manner as if to shoot." That's all the police officers needed to justify the shooting, even if the fleeing suspect turned out to be unarmed. He turned in a threatening manner as if to shoot. And prosecutors knew what was going on. They were in on it in those days. They never looked at these cases, no matter what eyewitnesses said the police officers did. But video changed everything. And so now, thanks to video, some police officers are being prosecuted for very bad shootings. And some individual police departments have actually really improved. And Boston, I'm very glad to say, is one of them. Boston's Police Commissioner Bill Evans is one of the very best police leaders in this country. But that's not much consolation for people who still suffer from unjustifiable police use of deadly force. Over 40 years after James Bowden was shot in the back by Boston police officers when he was unarmed and posed no threat to them, Antoine Rose was shot in the back when he was unarmed and posed no threat to a police officer. 2 years ago, Antoine Rose wrote a poem in his sophomore honors English course in high school. His friends read the poem at his funeral. The poem is about mothers and sons, mothers like James Bowden's mother and Antoine Rose's mother, who lost their sons over 40 years apart to the same thing, police bullets in the back. Antoine Rose's poem is entitled, "I Am Not What You Think," and it begins this way. I am confused and afraid. I wonder what path I will take. I hear that there's only two ways out. I see mothers bury their sons. I want my mom to never feel that pain. I am confused and afraid. Antoine Rose Jr. was 17 years old.
Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.